Do you struggle finding good stock from charity shops and car boot sales? Well, watch this video because I'm going to tell you how to get the best deals. And you know what? I'm not charging a subscription service. It's free, completely, no money down. Welcome back to Flies Round Sugar Resell. And for those that don't know, my name is Nathan and I'm a full-time reseller. And today is something completely different. So I've been selling for 2 years full-time. And this is the first video in part of a series about some of the things that I wish I'd known before I went full time. So if you are thinking about quitting your 9 to 5 and giving the corporate world the middle finger, then watch these videos. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, add your notifications because we're going to be updating this series on a daily basis and would hate for you to miss out. And by all means, this is not gospel and you can take this with a little pinch of salt if you want. But I feel like I'm pretty good at what I do. So today, me casa is your casa. And hang around till the end because I've got a right bee in my bonnet about something, especially for new resellers. It's really important for you to hear this. And remember, this is just part one of an ongoing series, but this is probably the most important part for new resellers. Sourcing strategy. Have I got one? Hell yes. Today, we're going to talk about sourcing and where to get the best deals. Because after all, if you've got niche stock, then you've got now to sell, have you? We're going to talk about the 3 main avenues that I use. 1, charity shops. 2, car boots. 3, suppliers. So the one question I get asked from everybody is, Nath, where do you get your stock from? How much do you pay for it? And what do you know that sells? Well, today we're going to get into all that because all those questions are probably answered differently from every single different reseller. So let's talk about my favourite, number 1 on my list, charity shops. And I'll tell you why charity shops are my main outlet. It's because they're open all year round and they never get rained off. A lot of people will tell you that charity shops are dead and they're too overpriced. But in my opinion, they just don't know where to shop and they don't know their onions. Now, I feel like I'm quite lucky in those regards because, as you might have guessed, I am northern, but I'm based out of Greater Manchester, which is quite a cool, trendy, fashion forward thinking city. You know, we've got loads of variety here and we're in the north, so we're not struck down by that like sort of southern divide. You know, our prices are known for being a little bit cheaper up here. I'm very thankful for that. I don't know how some of you resellers manage on shopping at charity shops long, because I've seen a bunch of videos and I'm gobsmacked at some of the prices. I'm like, that's insane. That's absolutely nuts. Like Burghouses for like 60 quid, Levi's for like 25 quid. That's just mental. That leaves you, if anything, if you're paying them prices, at a loss. I cannot control the prices in your area. However, what I can do is give you a few pointers on how to get the best deals. Consistency is always going to be king when it comes to charity shops, because if you don't go, you never know. It's as simple as that, really. I pop in pretty much every day to my local charity shops, even if it's just for a quick chat. I've just been in one of my cancer researches there and been chinwagging for about 2 hours. You never know what you're going to find, basically, so it's always best to go in as often as you can. And, right, if you're going in that often, you need to be getting on first name terms with the staff. Not out of some like little sly backhander way, like just out of sheer politeness. You know, people who work in charity shops are giving up their time, basically. And generally speaking, they are the nicest people under the sun. Now, there's 2 reasons for popping in every single day. First reason is, 1, you get access to the fresh stock going out. And 2, you'll get to know the people behind the till. This is really important, right? Because they're going to know your buying habits, right? So if anything that gets donated, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a text message, if you are that close with them, to be like, Nath, we've had this donation in, or delivery, do you want to come down and have a look, because there's some interesting bits in there. 2, if anything comes in as a donation, they're going to put it to one side for you and be like, hold that for Nath, that's something up his street, that's a little bit of him. He'll more than likely take that. That's generally the case in anyway. So I tend to swerve city centre charity shops just because the prices are generally extortionate, even here in Manchester. It's common sense, really. They've got a higher ground rate, so their prices are going to be more expensive than your little villages, than your little towns, etc, etc. That's where I find most of my gold for dirt cheap, to be fair. I love taking little day trips out to like Ebden Bridge, to Todmorden, and even further afield, places outside of York and stuff like that. It just keeps it really interesting. I think that little tidbit of information is quite common knowledge, right? Everybody knows that you get out of the cities and you go to your little kind of towns and stuff like that to find the best deals. However, did you know that charity shops price per postcode? So if you can find an area around you that's in a lower income area, let's call it, their prices are going to be cheaper because it's priced for that area. They're not going to be pricing stuff up like 20, 30, 40, 50 quid if people in that area can't afford it. Not a lot of people know that, but that's a little tip for you. Find out their delivery schedule as well when you're in there. I know that one of my local cancer researchers has a delivery date of Tuesdays and Fridays. That means their best stock, or their new stock even, is going out on a Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday, or a Friday afternoon, or a Saturday. One of my local hospice shops gets a delivery every Tuesday. So again, that's going out Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. It can differ from town to town and place to place, right? But I do know that Sue Riders, right, generally put their best stock out at the close of business on a Friday, ready for their Saturday morning rush. So if you can get in just before close on a Friday, you're going to get access to that people are still queuing at the door for on a Saturday morning. And it's really helpful to ask our cancer research donation centres. They are getting rid of the majority of the high street shops, but their donation centres will get deliveries from head office for their gold label stuff. So that's the high-end designer stuff. Ask them when you're getting your delivery in for your gold label, because that's sent to them from head office. When I'm in a charity shop, what I'll always check at first is coats and jackets, because that's where your lion's share of your money is going to be. There's no point you wasting time on your t-shirts, which I generally check last, because there's a ceiling price on t-shirts. What, you're paying 5 quid for them and you're probably selling them for like 15 quid max. No point wasting the time on that. Leave them till the end along with the shorts. So I generally go jackets and coats, because that's where your money is. Jumpers, crew necks, pullovers, etc., etc. Next, all year round sellers, classic really. And it's the same with shirts, jackets, knitwear, jumpers, shirts, and then your t-shirts and your shorts. Don't waste your time on the little monies. Go for where you're going to make the most money first. Get in there quick. So, do I get there at 9 a.m. every morning? Well, for every charity shop, that's impossible. So, no, I don't. Unless I know something's going to be on the shelf, then I will make the effort to get there. But generally speaking, around about 11 o'clock is fine. What you've got to remember is these people have got life outside of work, right? So, they're getting at 9 o'clock. They have a little cup of tea. They have a gossip, they have a natter, and then they start putting the stuff out. So generally speaking, round about 11, 12-ish is, in my experience, when they start bringing that day's stock out. But I'd always advise broaching it with kid gloves, because it can go either way. Right, so buying rag from a charity shop. Now, this is a little bit of a tricky one, right? It can be hit and miss, right? You can end up with absolute gold, but you can also end up with sackfuls of garbage, right? So you've got to be a little bit more discerning. Right, my top tip for this is, right, only approach the donation centres that sell items. The reason being is they get tons and tons and tons of donations every single week, right? So the stock that they put out on the shelf, they can be a little bit more discerning with. So generally speaking, better quality stuff goes to the rag. It is stuff that will need a slight repair, most likely. It might need a wash, it might need a deep clean. Right, and when to approach a charity shop to see if you can buy their rag. So, it's going to take a little bit of time. I've seen people laughed out of the place when they've just walked in and been like, I'm a reseller, can I buy your rag? It doesn't really work like that. You've got to have that relationship with the staff first. It's almost like a case of softly, softly catch the monkey, if that makes sense. There's no wrong with asking to see their rag, to see if you can get some gems from there and start that way, as opposed to buying in bulk. Like, I started buying rag from a certain place because I was like, would you mind just holding some of the stuff back that's got slight damage to it, just so I can get it repaired? And they were fine with that. And then it went on to me buying pretty much 30, 40, 50% of their rag sometimes. I will cherry pick now though, because I've just not got the space for a lock-up full of damaged clothes. You can obviously make really good money from rag, because the prices that you're paying are like pennies on the kilo. How you approach that all depends on how much they're getting for the rag. I know that my local rag man, or one of the bigger guys, pays 17 pence a kilo, which is obscene. So as long as I'm paying more than 17 pence a the kilo, The charity shops are happy with that. They're getting more money for the charity. That's how it works out. Find out how much your local ragman's paying first, and find it out. Just ask the staff. Just say, how much does he pay you per kilo? And if it's 17 pence, you say, all right, I'll give you £1 a kilo or 50 pence a kilo, whatever you're happy with, really. It is that easy, but you've got to approach it slowly. Please don't walk in there and be like, can I have your rag? It's not going to work like that. You'll get asked to either email head office, and if you email head office, you're going to get told, no, we're under contract with one of the bigger guys, or two, you'll just get a brick wall. Don't do it that way. That is schoolboy error, let's say. Do I negotiate in charity shops? Hell no. No chance. You wouldn't catch me dead asking for money off in a charity shop. I think that's so uncouth, you know, really uncouth. Chances are that you're going to get a few quid off in anyway if you're shopping in there all the time. I generally do, but I would never be asking for money off in a charity shop. That's just beyond the pale for me. I think it's maybe because they're cheap enough up here and anyway, I don't know. Maybe it's different for you, but I personally would not ask for money off in a charity shop. Car boot sales are a whole different breed. I love a good car boot sale, but they can be incredibly hit and miss. Sometimes you get up at the crack of dawn and you leave them with like 3 or 4 items and it's a complete waste of time. You wish you would have stopped in bed. But much like charity shops, if you don't go, you'll never know, and it's always worth a risk. Because car boots, you generally find in the more interesting bits, the rarer pieces, and it's usually pretty much nigh on slightly cheaper, let's say, than charity shops. When it comes to car boots, there's never a truer word spoken than the early bird catches the worm. I cannot stress this enough. If you get to a car boot sale late, you may as well have not went at all. You'd be surprised at the amount of gems that I've found by getting there before the majority of the other buyers do. You're in for a treat. Here's a sneaky little tip, right? Shouldn't really be telling you this, but I've been known to pay in as a seller, 15 quid to pay in as a seller for my pitch, just so I can get in early before the other buyers, then have a good scout around. Bit sly, but that's how you get access to the best stock. Use that as you will. Use that as you will. What's really important is knowing the art of negotiation. Now, I feel like I'm quite good at it, right? But I am from a very loud house full of women, right? And I'm certainly not shy. I can be a bit cheeky, and building up that bravado with the seller really, really helps. I mean, I'm guilty of it when I'm selling stuff. If someone's nice to me, I'm more than likely to come down, you know? So on occasion, my mouth definitely gets me into loads of trouble, but when it comes to haggling, I think I do all right. And this is how I negotiate, and for me, it's tried and tested, right? Adopt the 3C policy: chilled, calm, and collected, right? And with that, you'll have no bother whatsoever. So when I'm at a car boot and I see something that I like, I'll approach the seller, and it's really important not to be overly keen or overly descriptive about the item that you're looking at. Kind of play it dumb a little bit. It's a bit sneaky, but it's going to ensure that you get the best price. What I mean when I say don't be overly descriptive is like, don't pick something up and be like, oh, how much is this vintage aquascutum reversible trench coat, please? Just be like, yeah, mate, how much is your old jacket? If I like something at the car boot and I've asked their price, my clogs are slowly ticking. Is their initial price room for me to breathe? Can I make money on that? Does that fit into my metrics? And if it does, we're on to a strong start. But I'll still ask for a bit of cash off because they had to sell them goods and shift them on, really. So once I've got their base price, I'll go in slightly over half and say that's where I'm at. I'll gauge their reaction. I'll leave it with them. That's really important. Play the waiting game. Put the emphasis on them. If they go for that price, fantastic. Take your purchase. Jog on. Your job's done. If they're not happy to budge and they're sticking to their guns at their initial cost and you've offered just over half, ask them if they're happy to come down again and ask them for their best price. Are you happy to meet me somewhat in the middle? Can you come down to this? Really important at this point, do not force any urgency and leave everything with them. 9 times out of 10 at this point, they'll come down a little bit, and if that initial price point they offered was already within your metrics, you've sealed a couple of quid, take your goods and jog on, your job's done. Now, when is negotiation essential? And it's when their initial price is too high. if you really like an item and they've give you a price that you're never going to be able to make money on, there's nothing wrong with negotiation. I know that's really hard for some people, but see it as a bit of fun. Keep it interesting, be a little bit cheeky, be a little bit humorous with them. You know, like there's nothing stopping that. It can be awkward, but bite your tongue and just shoot them a price. So if that is the case, I adopt really similar tactics. Once they've given me their price and it's too high, my clogs get ticking again. I'm working out how much I need to buy that for to make good profit, to hit my metrics. So once I've worked out that price, that's when I kind of cut to the chase. I'll pick a price that I'm happy with, that I need to spend on that one item to make good profit, and I'll offer them slightly less than that. Now at this point, you're going to have two outcomes. They're going to say no and stick to their guns, right? Or they are going to come back to you with a slightly less offer. If they stick to their guns, move on, just go to the next stall. There's going to be other boot sales and there's going to be other sellers. Don't beat yourself up about that price. Remember, think with your wallet, right? And not your heart, right? Move on. If they've come down at that point already, right, that's a really good sign. It shows that maybe they're up for a little bit more negotiation. And if you've offered slightly less than what you're happy to pay for it, that gives you the opportunity to say, okay, not bad. Remember, 3 C's, cool, calm, collected, non-committal at this point, right? Say to them, if you're happy to meet me at this, I'm happy to come up further a little bit, and can we settle on this? 9 times out of 10, you're going to make the sale that way. I promise you. That is my tried and tested method. And if we can't come to an agreement, that's absolutely fine. He's lost the sale, not you. Move on to a different stall, to a different car boot, and that's where you'll find another bargain. Suppliers, do I use them? And Nath, where can I find a good one? Well, the short answer is yes, I do use suppliers with a few caveats. And for that, we'll get into. So I'm only going to speak from my lived experience in these regards, right? And it's the kind of opinion that splits the reseller community down the middle. So at present, I've got an incredible supplier that I'm incredibly happy with. I've got a really good relationship with them, which means that I get first dibs and early access to all of their new stock before anybody else. So I wouldn't kind of change that for the world. But how I got that is a different story. Now, the reason being is I only ever use hand picks. I don't buy blinds because I find it really important to meet the people that you're buying from, especially your suppliers, because you need that great relationship. I mean, for instance, I've met my supplier's kids, I've met his wife, they give me like lifts everywhere, they're so sound. I'm invited to Sunday lunch, to kids' weddings, etc, etc. It's really important to have that relationship with your supplier. The reason being is they're going to know your buying habits, they're going to know what you like, what you're interested in, much like in charity shops. And they're going to hold stuff back for you. Like if they crack a bale open that's full of like Burberry trench coat or Carhartt double knees, I know that I'm going to get a call to say, do you want to come down and have a look at this first before it goes out onto the shop floor, before it goes into these boxes that we sell. I mean, as you've probably noticed, loads of people gatekeep their favourite supplies for good reason, because the world of reselling, believe it or not, is incredibly competitive. It's all about having that best stock. So I get it when people gatekeep their suppliers. It's up to you to find your best one and what works best for you. Because what works best for you isn't necessarily is going to work good for me, and vice versa. So I'm too much of a control freak to buy blind boxes. I need to know what I'm selling. It's quite an alien thought to me just to be sent a box full of vintage to be like, there you are, off your pop, go and sell it. I need to feel it, I need to smell it, you know, I need to know exactly what I'm getting. I mean, take this for instance, right? So this is from my last outing at the wholesalers, right? That is stunning, right? That's a bit of British history. That is a Blacks of Greenock 1960s RAF rescue smock. It needs a new drawstring, but other than that, it's spotless. Right, this came from one of my suppliers. It was 10 quid maximum. I got a really good deal on a massive bundle, so the average cost per piece was about a tenner. Real mixed bag. That, the resale on this is 300 quid plus. that kind of quality of goods comes from having a really good relationship with your wholesaler. I'm not saying that wholesalers don't work, especially when you're buying mail order. What I'm saying is it doesn't work for me personally. I've got them on my doorstep. I'm surrounded by them in Greater Manchester, so I can afford to get there to the hand picks. If you can't, and you are stuck for stock, then by all means use a wholesaler, but have your wits about you first. Read the reviews, speak to other people that have bought blind from them before, and make your decision based on that. They do work, and you can get some absolute gems. What I'm saying is, it just doesn't work for me. So suppliers can be an absolute gold mine, let me tell you, as this piece proves, but you've got to know how to use them, and I would always advise getting to know the suppliers direct if you can. Do I haggle at the suppliers? Tenfold, absolutely, of course I do. If you know the supplier and you know how much they're paying per ton of American vintage, then you know what their margins are and you know what you can offer. Sometimes I get like up to 50% off on my orders, which is insane. But this goes back to having that relationship with your supplier. If you get on with them, you can afford to be a little bit cheeky, and there's no wrong with asking for a big discount if you're spending quite a lot. When it comes to what brands to look out for, every reseller is going to tell you something different. What works for me might not work for somebody else, and vice versa. Like, I have loads of luck with Berghaus, but I know other resellers wouldn't touch Berghaus with a barge pole. I generally go for branded stuff or certain pieces that just look nice. You know, you can, over time, you will get to know what's quality and what's not quality. What I would say is I do some videos where I touch on brands that maybe go under the radar at places that are either high ticket items or that are very quick movers on eBay. I will leave a link in the description to those videos, because those are brands that you're going to want to keep an eye out for. Make a mental note of them, stick them in your notepad or whatever, because those brands are brands that sell quick, that maybe a lot of people don't know the value behind them. Right, being the bonnet time. Right, so I've seen plenty of this recently and it's really started to grind my gears, right? You should not, under any circumstances, be paying a subscription fee or a one-off payment, any kind of payment for that matter, to be part of a reseller community. You shouldn't be paying for access to stockists and suppliers. That's absolutely mental. One, it's right cheeky, and two, it's a complete piss take. If you've not guessed already, that's absolutely enraged me. Find your own supplier. I guarantee a quick Google search will hook you up with one. Do not be paying any money to anybody, regardless of how many millionaires they've made or how many thousands they turn over a month, etc., etc. Do it yourself. It's a piece of piss. Right, so that's part one done with, source and stock. Don't forget to subscribe for part two. That is going to be photographing, listing, and how to boost your sales to get those listings moving out the door as quick as possible. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if there's any questions that you've got or anything that I've missed, because this is all just from here, there's probably loads of stuff I forgot. If you've got any questions, stick them in the comments and I will try my best to answer every single one of them. And we will see you in the next video.